Sunday, March 22nd, 2020. Guys, I want to talk about a couple of things that we all need to kind of discuss, and I'd like to hear your comments in the section below. One of the things, if many of you may have just finished watching the White House briefing from the coronavirus and about the TARP, and the first thing I noticed was for about an hour, everyone that spoke at the podium sidestepped and never mentioned the TARP program, which is basically a bailout for the citizens. They were talking about $2 trillion and $4 trillion, and they kept delaying coming to the stage and getting the briefing underway. So and it was never brought up until the reporters had the chance after about an hour of deep BS where you needed large boots on, very high waders, to listen to the first hour of sidestepping the only reason that anybody came to the YouTube channel or to the WhiteHouse.com site or Fox News, whoever was carrying it. The only reason you were there really was to see what the Senate was doing, because it was back and forth today that Pelosi wouldn't agree on this and so-and-so wouldn't agree on this, and suddenly it went from $2 trillion to a $4 trillion bailout. Now, so I know you guys saw it, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. Then the reporters forced them to talk about it. Well, we can't quite get a deal, when you knew they were what I call sidestepping that question or even talking about it for the entire almost first hour of it. But they could not reach an agreement. But they quickly, last week, came to agreements on bailing out the banks, lenders, municipal funds. Now they're going to quickly, more than likely Monday, pass bills to bail out the airlines and the hotels, travel industry, others. But so far they're not getting very far on helping the American people. Now, I've said this before. They're saying $2,500 a family or whatever, maybe four for if you got a couple kids. Whatever it is a very temporary thing. It may help folks for about a month. Depends on your situation. If you got rent or things like that, just depends on how what it costs you to make it that month. But what's happened now in the last week is state after state is going into lockdown. And for my friends just across the state line in Louisiana, you go under lockdown tomorrow. We're going to look at the map there on that thing. But with the stock market itself, guys, it has already in the futures, which is kind of early for it to do it, but in the futures for opening tomorrow, they've already bottomed out. Now, you're going to see many people push gold and silver, and it will seem logical at first unless you understand the Bible, and when it tells you that the gold and silver will be cast into the streets and cursed as a stumbling block of my people, and the iniquity involved with that. Because you can't eat it and you can't feed it to your kids. So when you hear that rhetoric going on, guys, walk away. There's other things going on. And by the way, some of this information is coming from the current articles on the front page of Zero Hedge. If you want to get a little deeper into a subject that interests you, go there and look at it. If you do videos, break it down. But here it says U.S. debt to the GDP will hit new all-time high in 2020. That's this year. Why? Because of all the trillions that they're bailing the banks out with and the other industries, but they're still arguing about helping the American people. They're spending more than we bring in. That's a major problem. That's why the stock markets are in major trouble, guys. They're trying to cut this, or they're trying to downplay the situation. But we're going not into a depression, but a recession quicker and much worse than the Great Depression of 1929. You better listen to what I'm telling you. And what's different this time is at that time during the Depression, there was not nearly as many people. The cities weren't as dense, and a lot more people were self-sufficient as far as growing gardens. And by the way, we've been blessed with a few warm days to get ours in. If you have any area to do that, it may be the last things you eat before this mess gets straightened out. But anyway, they're pumping all the cash into systems, and it's starting to disappear, and CEOs are disappearing. Again, look at the date on these articles, all today. And as we think about the devastating blow on the shutdowns to our economy, which is critical, and with Congress not making a deal, this is what I mentioned earlier. The U.S. futures crash, limit down, bonds and bullion bid. No Congress agreement on the stimulus means a lack of bids. So the U.S. equity futures contracts are limit down at 5%. And briefly, guys, where's your money? Equity hedge funds suffer their worst month ever. You can see this chart. You might want to talk to your fund managers seriously. And if they say no, you're going to get an early penalty, or early withdrawal penalty, that's better than zero, which we're very quickly going to. And this tidbit came from Mitch McConnell today as they were arguing about the allocations and the budget. During a crisis like this, he said, the bailout industry is often hit the hardest. So we're taking immediate action as our economy is deeply dependent on this bailout system. If bailouts can't function, then America can't function. A cash injection is absolutely necessary to make sure these failing businesses can inject cash into other failing businesses. At press time, Congress had signed a bill, not to help us, but to allocate funds to bail out the bailout of the bailout industry. $2 trillion, guys. But they couldn't help the American people. Now, looking at the situation in Louisiana, this came out at 5:40 p.m. this afternoon. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards announced that the state would be under stay-at-home order beginning Monday at 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. The announcement comes just after Ohio Governor Mike DeWine issued a similar order. Many states are doing it again, guys. Today, I'm issuing a statewide stay-at-home order that goes into effect 5 p.m. Monday, March 23rd, to further fight the spread of the COVID-19 in Louisiana, as the number of confirmed cases is now more than 800. Now, let's go to the Louisiana.gov website, and this is called LDH, or the Office of Public Health. And as of today, there's 837 cases. There's been 20 deaths. Probably hundreds, if not in the thousands, of deaths from the flu there this year. 36 of 64 parishes with reported cases. 451 cases in Orleans Parish. 15 of the 20 deaths there. 3 deaths in Jefferson, 1 in Catahoula, and 1 in St. James. A lot of this had to do with not shutting down Mardi Gras. Mr. John Bel Edwards and the mayor of New Orleans. Money was more important. But guys, what we're seeing is, I think I mentioned it yesterday, Trump continues to say he will not go on a nationwide lockdown. Why? He doesn't have to. Here is something that is very serious. Once you get everyone separated, divide and conquered, then events will happen to where your weapons will be next. Once they think they've got the populace where they want them, you're going to see something, without giving away a code word, the city that says what happens here stays here. Remember what happened there that no one talks about? An event like that, staged by whoever, would be a false flag triggering point to make that next step. Once everyone's settled down, isolated, under threat, like in Vicksburg, if you get caught out, $1,000 ticket. First time they can do that. But once they get everyone settled down, there will be an event, again, in the city, where what happens there stays there, just like happened there. and then it's going to start. Listen to what I'm saying. It's a heads up. Be safe.